What's up everyone, Jace 2 Cents here, and I'm here at Micro Center in Tustin with Jacob.
Hey.
When's the last time we've actually done a video like together? And I don't mean like TwitchCon, but I mean like an actual video.
It's been a while, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
TwitchCon was the last one, but yeah, prior to that, it was been a while, so.
So if you guys are not aware, Jacob's with NVIDIA now, been there for probably about a year now, huh?
Like a year and a half.
Year and a half? Wow, time flies. So you reached out to me and said, hey, let's build a computer to give away at
GeForce LAN 50, GeForce LAN 50.
Is it really 50?
Yeah, 50 hours. 50 hours.
Oh, I was thinking like the chronological order of how many there've been.
There hasn't been 50 of them. There's been 7. This will be the 7th one.
Yeah. So NVIDIA was definitely gracious enough to sponsor this video along with Micro Center. So those are our two main sponsors for this video. So the goal today is to build a portable PC. Like, I don't want to necessarily call it SFF yet, because I feel like SFF has definitely turned into a broad statement now, because like there's all sorts of leader ranges now for that. But we're gonna walk around today, we're gonna try and pick some awesome parts for a gaming PC that you guys are gonna give away at GeForce LAN 50 in Las Vegas in the beginning of January. Might be coinciding with a very exciting event, an announcement taking place that week.
Yep, there's obviously gonna be a keynote from NVIDIA there, have a lot of announcements, pretty exciting times. So yeah, it should be fun.
All right, let's pick a computer first. Okay, so we talked about this being a smaller form factor. Yeah, I think before we start picking motherboard and whatnot, we need to pick our chassis first for this one.
Yep.
Did you have any in mind? Or?
I mean, there's so many good options. There's so many options for mini form factor, small form factor PCs.
I don't think going as small as like the A4. Like these are ultra portable.
Yeah.
Because you could take like a Pelican case, make some foam insert for it, and you throw it on a plane and feel comfortable. But size will be a factor. I mean, what are we putting in here? So you guys are providing the GPU.
Yep, so we got an RTX 4080 Super that we're gonna be putting in there. And yeah, when choosing your case, it can be, obviously you wanna make sure the graphics card fits, which is like kind of the reason we developed the whole small form factor ready system. Right. Whereas, you can take an RTX 4080 Super or from a small form factor ready one, if it's advertised as SFF ready.
4080 Super a part of that program, or is it up to 4070 Ti?
One, because it's the Founders Edition, is not part of the program. It does not fit the dimensions. However, there are ones from other AICs that may fit into the dimensions.
So for the CPU for this, we want to go 9800X3D. Unfortunately, like most retailers, like it's very difficult to get your hands on those. So Micro Center does have them kind of like trickling in here and there. So I think the other day we were here, there was like 25 plus of them, and then the next day they were gone. So definitely got to like really kind of keep your ear to the ground for those, reserve one and run to get it. But I think our fallback today is going to be a 7800X3D.
Still good. Still good.
Well, yeah, you definitely can't call that now an obsolete CPU. But in terms of gaming, I mean, that's still a powerhouse CPU.
Yeah, I mean, that paired with an RTX 4080 Super, I mean, we'll play pretty much everything maxed out.
Here's the A3. So again, not the smallest chassis, definitely will fit all the hardware that we have. Yeah. I don't know how many liters this is, it doesn't say on here.
That's an M-ATX, right?
Right, it's an M-ATX. Now we could put an M-ATX in here, or still an ITX. Right. It does look like this is an SFF, or excuse me, SFX PSU, possibly. But more importantly, we've got this rail system right here. Don't know if this pops. Yeah, we got this rail system right here. And that will allow me to put an AIO in here, like a 240 AIO.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So I was thinking like, if we don't find anything else, I was kind of liking this chassis because again, every panel on here is mesh, and I'm not putting it back together right. Every panel on here is mesh, so airflow won't be a problem with this guy.
Okay, so this one here, I mean, obviously this is really small.
Terra,
yeah, the Fractal Terra. This case is actually one of the cases that's in part of it. There's a bunch of cases that are part of the SFF Ready program. That's one of them.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe this will fit a 4080 Super though. Okay, so before we commit fully, right now we use the N6T box as a table there. So if we take the A3 and we put it vertical, it is pretty much.
It's like double.
Yeah, I feel like it's.
Maybe a little.
It's like 1.75x,
yeah.
Right? Obviously, it's not going to be sitting like this. So we were talking about a second ago. LAN parties also too. You have limited desk space available to you.
Because I mean, it's
unless you pay for 2 spots.
It's yeah, but it's you have several hundred gamers. It's a table, limited space. So having limited desk space is really important also.
Yeah, so that's why we have to make the decision right now. This case, although it's like 60 bucks versus 135, so it's more than double the cost. This is going to absolutely, without a doubt, provide better cooling. Because every side of it's mesh, it's less restrictive than the fabric, and there's going to be more intake fans and stuff in this. This is really relying on the 200 millimeter exhaust fan on the top. The GPU is obviously pulling in its air fresh, but that air, once it makes its way inside, is warmed up. And I don't know what other cooling is available to us in this chassis. So as many of you might have noticed already, which we just figured it out, obviously, because of the very helpful and knowledgeable Micro Center associates, we can't use the mood with the 4080 Super FE because we're limited to a 2-slot bracket. Now it'll fit a 3-slot card, but the bracket only supports a 2-slot bracket, and the FE is a 3-slot bracket.
It is a little bit bigger card. He did mention that, for example, the Asus ProArt, for example, which is 2 slots, will fit into that card.
Or any other 4080 Super that has a 2-slot bracket.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it has to be a 2-slot card, because the card can expand beyond that. But because the FE card is a big solid metal cooler, they've tied it in with 3 to give it less sag. So unfortunately, we now have to go with not unfortunately, but we can't go with our original choice. We're going with the A3 MATX Wood Edition, which it's the same as that Lian Li we looked at, but with a wood front, which will give it a more kind of a premium feel and look, I think. Now we know we have plenty of cooling, and we can outfit this thing with a ton of fans.
And it's still pretty small. And like Nick pointed out, maybe you could put the monitor on top of it.
Hopefully if it's not a heavy monitor. You're not gonna put like an OLED on there where it's gonna buckle that in. All right, mood. I will build with you some other day. Okay, so get on over here, Nick. This is the 7800 X3D. Definitely nothing to complain about. If you wanted to upgrade to a 9800 X3D, which I don't think that's a realistic upgrade, to go from a 7900 X3D to a 9800 X3D, especially if you're playing at like 1440 or 4K.
Right.
The 9800 is a faster CPU, but I think right now if you can't get one of those and you can snag one of these for a decent price, do that. So now we have to go, well, we don't have to go ITX. I think we should take a look at that MATX board. So we were going to go with the ROG B650EI gaming Wi-Fi board, but now that we can go MATX, that gives us an option to maybe have more drive expandability. I think what we're going to go with is the B650M Aorus Elite AX. This is a solid. I've actually been using Aorus Elite, the X670E for my desktop, like at work, and I've been pretty happy with it. So obviously it's wireless. It's going to have at least 2 M.2s available to it, and a little bit more robust just in the space they have to build with. So, are you okay now going MATX? It might feel a little less SFFy.
That's still a pretty small case, so I'm not too worried about that.
So you have the graphics card, we have the case, the motherboard, and the CPU. We need storage, we need RAM, power supply, and a cooler.
Yep.
So I think we go 240 AIO, just because we can. Okay, so RAM, it's an interesting conversation. We're gonna be doing a video where we're actually gonna be testing, I think, 4 different sets with different timings and sub-timings to see on a 9800
That's
X3D.
always the common conversation is like, do you go with lower timings or you go with faster, faster speed?
The answer is yes. The fastest mega transfers you can get with the tightest timings.
Right.
Because there's an equation too that shows as the mega transfers get faster, right, the timings get looser.
Right.
But CL36 at say 7,000 mega transfers is faster than 6400 at 32.
Right. Yeah.
So there's some discussion to have there. But so what we're going to go with today, because now we have an AMD platform, Expo, G.Skill Triton Z5 Neo RGB, but it's 6400 CL32. What's the sub timing on this one? CL32, 39. So the sub timing
39, 102.
Yeah, so the sub timing's a bit wide, but I think that this will still be fine considering the fact that our main timing is at 32.
Yeah.
Because we're going X3D on a 4080 Super, bottlenecking our GPU is a possibility, even with the 7800 X3D.
Yeah, especially if you're at lower res, like, of course, 1080p, 1440p, maybe in some situations.
Which, according to the Steam survey, is still 59% of people surveyed. So 1080p is still the dominant res.
Still very popular resolution.
1440p was still down in the high 20 percentile. So, yeah, you still have to account for the end user potentially running a 1080p monitor. Now, a lot of people are still running will stay at 1080p, but they'll go with 360 hertz. Right? Or 240 hertz, 280 hertz. So if you're going to start throwing those kinds of frames, now the RAM definitely matters.
And a lot of it depends on the game as well. You know, like obviously, you know, Cyberpunk with full path tracing, full ray tracing is going to be, you know, more GPU intensive than like, you know,
Right.
Counter-Strike 2, for example. So
Agreed.
a lot of variables there.
Okay, let's go find a power supply. Rewind in your career back to the EVGA days.
Yeah.
So EVGA has had ODMs with Seasonic and Superflower, right? Did you ever notice a higher, say, failure/return one versus the other?
Not necessarily. I mean, they were both, you know, good manufacturers. So I mean, they were.
They're the two biggest
both,
that I know.
Yeah, they're both great options, honestly.
So the reason why I say that is Seasonic and Superflower now sell direct, right, as their own brand. So many people may not know this. Most of the power supplies you have probably heard of are one of those two brands. So Superflower is on the next aisle, and we have Seasonic here. So for power supply size on this, I'm kind of feeling like
I would go like 850.
that'd be like the minimum.
Yeah.
That's why I would probably.
1,000 is great. You know, I mean, 850 will run it fine.
I was suggesting 1,000, so we stay in the more the efficient curve.
Right. Yep.
But if you're at a LAN party, you're not using your power. You know.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, the PSU, the output power, it's more efficient at lower, at certain power points. So like sometimes a 1,000 watt is actually more efficient than an 850 watt, even if they're both gold rated.
So okay, let's just compare. So we have a PX1000 from Seasonic that's an 80 plus platinum. It says $249. I don't know if that's the actual price. We could save some money by going down to the 850.
Gold.
It's a gold rated.
Yeah.
So that's $100 cheaper. Can we get a price check on this one? Is this actual? Okay, so the 250 price is correct. For $50 less, we could step down to a gold rating, which is actually only a couple of percent.
It's only a couple of percentage points, and 80 plus gold is still really efficient. So
That's kind of the standard still these days.
Yeah, I mean that's like certainly if you're building on a budget, you know, I mean you could even go to like bronze, but gold is pretty good.
I don't think you're going to find many 1,000-watt bronze.
Probably not 1,000 watt. Yeah.
I say we go with the gold rated 1,000.
That's what I would go with,
$50.
honestly. Yep.
Yeah, we'll save $50 with that. We'll have more GPU growth ahead of us if, say, they wanted to throw 4090 in there one day.
Save $50 and more room for RGB, right?
Yes.
Jay's 2 cents fans.
Hey, send him the hate. I'll link his Twitter down below. You can go give it to him.
So there's a lot of options for AIOs. And do you have like a go-to brand or style?
Personally, it depends on what it's going in. So most of these, as you know, are some sort of
the one with the most RGB, right?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Actually, is most of these are some sort of Asetek design. Of course, there are ones that are outside the Asetek patent.
Right.
But we have things like the Infinity Mirror, RGB. We have screens on pumps. Screen on a pump would be a bad choice for this build because you can't really see it through the mesh.
Right, yeah.
And we didn't go with the glass side panel, which would allow us to see it so that we could have maximum cooling. The other aspect is the controller. Does it have a bunch of wires going into controllers that require?
And that's the other thing, especially when you're dealing with like, you know, all the RGB, like do they have RGB headers and, you know, how are they all connected?
My favorite AIOs are nothing more than a 4-pin PWM pump wire and maybe a pigtail for RGB to it. And then the fans are daisy chained with a 4-pin and an ARGB. Let the motherboard control it.
Right.
No extra controllers to deal with or software. That's the other part of it, is if you have to run another controller software, you know, it's just, you're starting to bloat up your OS that way. Now the Montech stuff I know is fairly straightforward in that it's just like I just described. Another one that's actually a good option, and I used it in North Carolina when I did a build there at Micro Center, the Razer Hanbo Chroma.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think Razer and AIOs. Now they're not really going to be around that much longer because they're not really staying in the AIO market. The reason why I bring that up is they've discounted those coolers so far versus when they were new that they're hard to ignore. And it performed very, very well when I used it.
Yep.
So what is the price on this guy?
Where it fits, it sits.
$89.
$89.99. Yeah.
Okay, $90 for a 360 AIO, has the RGB. We could see that through the mesh. That'll show up.
Probably, yeah.
ASRock, okay, so here's the best part. Its controller is your motherboard. And considering the fact that this is only $90, this is a hard one to not go with. Now we gotta keep something in mind though. It mounts on horizontally As long as we can keep one tube higher than the pump, we should be good on water flow in terms of having any air get picked up in there. I'm willing to take the risk because I think we can also mount it on the top. I have to check, but I think there was also mounting spots on the top. We'll figure that out when we get to that point. So I talked about storage. I wanted to put 4 terabyte in here because we talked about how big games are.
Yep.
Like you made a joke like, what 5,200 RPM spinning drive are we going to throw in this thing, right? Yeah, the good old days of the Raptor drives. Remember those? 10,000
I had
RPM?
one, 10,000 RPMs, and it had a window on it.
Yeah, so you could see the
so awesome.
needle seeking. So we could put 2 terabyte drives in here if we wanted.
Yep.
I don't know. I just feel like going with one big drive makes sense. Initially, because we were going to do the ITX build, that kind of fell through. But for $239 for the Lexar 4 terabyte.
Well, I mean, we talked about LAN parties. The most important part of a LAN party is playing games, right? And you want to make sure you have all the storage to play all your games. And I mean, I feel like 4 terabyte is like where it's at right now if you want the maximum amount of games.
Because if I were going to do 2 drives, I probably would have done like a 1 terabyte OS drive. So you could put maybe a couple of your main programs on there that you want, or games or whatever, and then a more bulk storage like a 2 terabyte NVMe. But just going a single drive is so simple. There's no denying that having one drive with everything just keeps it clean. So I think we're going to do that. But I want to point that out though. The price at $239 for this 4 terabyte Gen 4 drive at 7,400 megabytes per second, it's, I think, cheaper than getting some of the 2 terabyte drives and getting 2 of them.
So do you need cooling on that one, or does the motherboard has it? Or okay.
Yeah, the board has, so it has 2 M.2 slots with the metal heatsink on top with the thermal pad. And then that's right under the GPU. So even though the GPU is kind of blowing warm air hitting something's better than no air. So we'll go with that. Okay, I think we need to throw some case fans in this.
Oh wait, we need the most important part for any LAN party. Lots of these right here.
Are these energy drinks?
Yes.
Well, I had no idea what those were anytime I saw those. So just so you can tell someone, hey, grab my balls. Okay, so here we are, back at the case aisle once again in one of the most efficient routing we could possibly come up with through the store. But it's because I couldn't remember what our situation was for fans. So our 360 AIO is going to go up top. It looks like we should have enough clearance here, hopefully. At least we have 50 mil to fit. That's going to be a tight fit, actually. Are you sure we're going to be able to fit a 360 up top with the power supply? Yeah, no. So we can have direct air blowing directly onto the GPU. So we have 3 fans up here, obviously. We need a 120 exhaust. I say we go with 2 120 side intakes blowing direct on the GPU.
How about here? You going with anything on the bottom?
It looks like it's offset enough to where we can have our MATX board in here and still have 2 120s on the bottom. So what do you say? We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fans. So I guess I'm thinking I think we go with the Lee & Lee Uni fans. In my opinion, they're still my favorite interlocking RGB fan. And I know for a fact that we don't have to use their hub because it does come with a breakout cable that allows you to run 4-pin PWM and an ARGB header off the motherboard. So we would only need, as long as the motherboard has 3 headers, we should be good to go. So we know we need 5 fans. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. Can you tell they have a huge Lee & Lee presence? I say we go with a 3-pack of the SL120 V2s. I like the SLs a lot. I prefer personally the perimeter lighting on them than say the fan themselves lighting up. Not to mention too, both sides of it light up equally. So when they're in the case doing their thing, no matter what, you see the same light. Because some of the fans, like you reverse them and they just assume all the lighting is gonna be on the intake side. So then you have less lighting on the back. Right. So we need to get a 3-pack and then 2 individual packs. That one's torn. I'm gonna go with that one. Let's go add this up. Let's go see what the total cost comes to on these. And then we have to obviously add the cost of the FE because you're providing the 4080 Super FE. And let's go build it. Okay, so grand total for all of our parts is $1,766.98. That's including the Orange County sales tax. That does not include the 4080 Super at $999. So you can add about $75 to the price of that for tax. Let's call it 80 to be safe, so $1,080. That is putting this at near a $3,000 PC. It's over $2,800.
It is a good PC.
So someone is getting a heck of a giveaway PC.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, well, you know what we gotta do next? We gotta go build it. So we're back at the studio now and we get to build the computer, but one thing we haven't talked a lot about today yet is GeForce LAN. So can you give me like the 60-second version of what GeForce LAN is for people that have never heard of it?
Yeah, so it's a LAN party. You know, everyone's a BYOC, bring your own computer. Bring your own computer, play with your friends. It's been going on since 2004. The last one, GeForce LAN 6, was on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. Why don't you show them what you brought?
Yes, I still have this shirt. Check this out.
It's like, I can't believe I missed this.
I'm on a boat.
It was on the USS Hornet.
That's so cool. The best thing, the most amazing thing about this shirt is it still fits.
Oh. Yeah, that, I think for many of us, that's, I have many clothes that fit and then don't fit and then fit again and then don't fit again.
Yeah, a funny story about this one, actually. We were doing liquid nitrogen overclocking on the USS Hornet, and it was a massive ordeal to get liquid nitrogen on that aircraft carrier.
Oh, I bet. Holy cow. I was thinking like power
we had
delivery,
to get like city approval and the fire marshal.
That's like, imagine going, we're gonna do some extreme like fire eating at the Natural History Museum. Yeah. So what year was that?
That was 2011.
So that was 1 year before I started YouTube. That was the last one.
Yeah, we had, you know which card it was? It was we had GTX 580s there.
Wow, okay, makes me feel old. Fast forward all the way to 2025 for the next one. So 14 years later. Yep. So what's the plans for that one?
Yeah, so that is going to be GeForce LAN 50 at CES. So it's going to be a 50-hour LAN party prior to the NVIDIA keynote at CES.
It's a very interesting number that you guys chose there. Because clearly there haven't been 49 other ones if the last one was GeForce LAN 6.
Well, it's 50 hours, right?
Oh, so. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely no other reason it could possibly
But actually
be 50.
there's 4 across the world, in Las Vegas, Beijing, Berlin, and also in Taipei.
So it sounds like basically you have all the major time zones covered at the same time, which is kind of crazy to think about.
There will be like plenty of giveaways, of course. There will be presentations. A lot of the partners are going as well. So, you know, like a typical LAN party, also a lot of good times and games.
So that kind of brings us to the point of this build. You talked about there being giveaways and stuff. So this is being given away in Las Vegas. So why don't you go ahead and mention like how a person's going to win this piece?
Yes, so this build will be given away for anybody who attends the Las Vegas LAN in person. But if you're not in person, there is a ton of ways to win as well. There is an online component to GeForce LAN, whereas you can use the NVIDIA app or the GeForce Experience if you're still using GeForce Experience and participate when the LAN kicks off there as well. And you can win like in-game items for Diablo and a few other games as well. And this is actually part of a broader campaign that is called GeForce Greats, where if you interact with the various NVIDIA GeForce social channels, there's like tons of prizes and giveaways, all kinds of good stuff. So
that's awesome. So let's go ahead and start by recapping the parts that we have here. Which is funny, it feels like forever ago for us, but obviously it was just a few minutes ago for the audience. But 7800X3D, because 9800X3D is still hard to get your hands on. Going to a B650M Aorus Elite MATX motherboard. We've got 32 gigabytes of CL32, 6400 megatransfer RAM. We've got some Unifans right here for it. We've got our Hyperflow ARGB 360 by Montech. Actually, I've never taken a look at Montech's coolers, but I love their cases. So at 90 bucks, this was a hard one to pass on, considering the fact we could fit it in the case that we're doing. 1000 watt gold rated Seasonic power supply, ATX 3.0, by the way. And then it's all gonna be going in this 26.3 liters. I didn't realize it was that big, but it's still a fairly small chassis for what it is though. This is the A3 MATX Wood Edition from Lee & Lee. So an MATX case. Obviously we're missing a component that we haven't shown yet.
Whoops, we forgot to get it.
Nope, here it is right here. Brand new, still sealed. We'll leave it sealed until it's time to put it into the chassis. But let's do it. Let's go ahead and build ourselves a computer. Now, as I start to kind of unbox this stuff, describe what it was like having a LAN on an aircraft carrier. Was it in the hangar? It had to be in the hangar.
Yes, it was.
Okay, because I'm like, if it was a battleship, like there's nowhere you're gonna be able to fit that many people, let alone have that much power distribution.
It was pretty awesome. You know, at the time I was at EVGA, And you know, we had a booth, but to load and unload like everything you need for your booth, or the liquid nitrogen, like I mentioned, we had to like actually, you know, they had like a lift, and it was actually quite involved, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I guess it makes sense that they would just sort of lift everything right into the hangar bay, rather than trying to, because it's not like necessarily a direct ramp to it, I guess.
And it was actually really appropriate because that was around the time of Battlefield 3.
Okay, so here's our Aorus motherboard. You were talking about storage, so yeah, we can fit at least two M.2s under here. We talked about like motherboard features and stuff that I need to have. Here, this is like the most basic one of the additional like ways to unlatch your GPU, considering now they can sort of get crammed between the cooler and stuff. It's just an extension piece. I think that's an interesting mention right there. Oh, we need to make sure that's seated all the way. We won't end up on Reddit. There we go. Okay, so how many GeForce LANs have you personally attended?
Okay, so let's see. I was at GeForce LAN.
Sounds like a big number.
I was at GeForce LAN 4, and I was at GeForce LAN 5. GeForce LAN 5 was part of Envision.
Where were those at?
Let's see. Those were both in like San Jose area.
Oh, okay, so not far from the headquarters up there then.
Yep.
Just kind of like in convention centers sort of deal?
The Envision was like the Envision LAN was part of a wider NVIDIA event called Envision.
Now we know why they didn't do another one after the aircraft carrier. They're like, we can never top this.
It's hard to top the aircraft carrier, but you know, CES Las Vegas, 50 hours, I think.
Is it gonna, so where is it in Vegas?
It's gonna be at the Mandalay Bay.
Okay. And when does it start?
Starts January 4th.
Does that 50 hours coincide with maybe the start of a presentation?
Yes, it coincides with the NVIDIA keynote at CES.
All right, we'll let you all speculate as we go ahead and build a late. Okay, there we go. One chunk of PC. It's the best way to put it. You know, building in the A3 here, this was pretty interesting. Even though it is like a 27-liter case, it certainly felt smaller than that building in it. So the two fans on the bottom, as you can see, are very close to the GPU. So there might be some fan tuning necessary for noise reasons. But you know, to be honest, you could probably even run the GPU fans pretty low. Because when you have case fans that close to the GPU fan, you just put the GPU fans lower, let the case fans blow through it. Actually, and 0 RPM will keep this thing very cold at idle.
It'll be very cold, even at idle.
So the fans here, which I initially thought might have assisted with GPU cooling, actually helps by allowing cool air to make its way to the upper chamber, which is divided by the GPU. So our AIO is actually getting fresh air supplied from the side right here. Yeah. So our CPU should run pretty dang cool. And then obviously we have the 120 exhaust in the back. So nice thing too, when it comes to almost like a little mini case review, is you pointed out like, oh, the power supply switch, you forget to switch that. But fortunately, because the front wood panel just pops right off, you can easily flip that switch if you forget. When I was running the Antec Flux Pro, that isn't the case. Like you have to take the side panel off, then some screws, and then the mesh panel up to get to the sideways PSU. So, you know what we have to do now?
See if it works?
Cross our fingers. We'll let Jacob have the magic touch here.
I have the magic touch.
I'm assuming.
It's something.
Wow. The fans make a bit of noise. Okay, look at that. But look at that. I gotta figure out why the RGB is not RGB. I'm touching it this time. Okay, they're turning. Ow. Okay, yeah, and they're lit up.
Yay.
So we think what happened when we put in the GPU, the link cable's right here. We think maybe it got caught and kind of yanked it sideways. So Jacob, why don't you go ahead and tell us what they need to do to know more about GeForce LAN?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about GeForce Crates or GeForce LAN, you can go to geforcelan.com. Learn more. A lot going on. It's cool.
Pretty straightforward. Is that also where they go to watch any of the live stream or the giveaway stuff or whatever?
Yeah, you can learn about all the different activities that are going on there. Yep.
Okay, so there you go. If you end up being the random lucky winner that's watching this video and is at GeForce LAN in Vegas and wins this PSU, just know.
PSU.
Or yeah, the PSU is part of it, I promise. If you win this CPU PC gaming thingy, it's like old people, how they're like, oh, is this your CPU? Anyway, if you happen to win this, all sales final, no warranty implied. And if there's any warranty troubleshooting needs that you have, email Jacob.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever.
Twitter X.
Twitter X.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. As always, we'll see you in the next one.